Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Libertine Holdings PLC half-year results investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged, can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just please simply type in your questions at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during today's meeting. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard, and we'll notify you when they're ready for your review. We'll shortly release a poll, and your participation, I'm sure, will be greatly valued by the company. And I'd now like to hand over to Sam Cockerell, CEO. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, and Mark, thanks very much for the introduction. Yes, I'm going to walk you through our update slides, just giving you an overview of the first half year of this financial year and some highlights of what's been happening in that period and since. So a fairly busy slide for a fairly busy period. We have completed multiple validation prototype systems, and these have a couple of these have actually been dispatched to customer and partner sites, which will be testing during the first quarter of next year. There's one such example on the right-hand side there. That's now down at Marlow Powertrain. We've also recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Ashok Leyland, who are interested in evaluating linear generators in their heavy-duty powertrains, in particular trucks, buses, other types of commercial vehicles. We've signed a strategic development partnership relationship with a company called OMI, an Italian company who develop small-scale combustion systems for powertrain and other applications. And we're working with OMI on more power-dense, more compact systems, but using exactly the same platform technology as we use in our larger systems. Across in the US, and actually I'm speaking from the US today, we have recently formed a new wholly owned subsidiary, Intelligent Inc. Now this reflects the increasing amount of business development and technology development activities that we have in the US, including those that I'm supporting this week. We've also recently novated the Master Consulting Service Agreement, the Joint Development Agreement, that we had previously signed with GE. That's now been novated across to Hyliion. And so we'll be supporting their development of the Carno generator for their Hypertruck platform. And then on to the financials, which Gareth will give us more details about later on. We've delivered 0.6 million of commercial revenues in the first half year, and an additional 0.4 million pounds of grant funding has been secured to further support development of clean combustion using hydrogen, CNG, and so on for heavy-duty powertrain applications, which is the system you can see up on the top right there. Now, just for those of you who haven't been too close to Libertine, here's just a snapshot of our business. So we develop, manufacture, and license technology for clean, efficient power generation using green hydrogen and other low-carbon and renewable fuels. We make linear electrical machines, power electronics, and motion control systems. And on the right-hand side here, you can see some examples of those systems broken out. So the blue systems, if you can see my mouse there on the right and the left, these are the linear electromechanical systems. The system in the center here is developed by another strategic partner, Marlow Powertrain, so that when these are brought together, they form what we call a linear generator. And you can see one in the background. The cabinets in the background here contain our power electronics and motion control solutions. And these are used in programs for developing linear generator products. And our proposition really is to help OEMs accelerate their development of linear generators to bring the benefits of this really exciting category of technology into market applications that they serve. An animation here hopefully will make things a bit clearer. So this is the example cylinder I showed you on the previous page. And you can see this is essentially a long, thin stick. On the outside, we've got these two linear electrical machines, and that's Libertine's core technology. What happens in the center is where the OEMs and the application derives value. So our electrical machines control the combustion event with much better precision, so that it's much cleaner and much more efficient than if at the end you have a crankshaft as you would do in a conventional engine, rather than these rather beautiful linear electrical machines, which control that combustion process using very precise software, just as software today controls ignition and fuel injection in modern engines. Now, in transport applications, like the heavy-duty truck application served by Hyliion and the applications that we're discussing with companies like Ashok Leyland, we believe that linear generators as a category can outperform other range extender options. And the reasons for this are explained on this slide. So compared to conventional internal combustion engines, which of course can be used in range extender applications, the challenge with a conventional internal combustion engine beyond efficiency is fuel flexibility. If you make a conventional engine to use hydrogen, it's not ideally suited to using existing fuels that are in widespread use, like compressed natural gas. Compare that with fuel cells, and I've put two example types of fuel cell on the right-hand side here. So PEM fuel cells, proton exchange membrane fuel cells, really require ultra-high purity hydrogen. So that's just a big no in terms of fuel flexibility. Solid oxide fuel cells do offer fuel flexibility. You can put natural gas, you can put hydrogen into the same device and generate efficient, clean power. But compared to solid oxide fuel cells here, we believe that linear generators as a category have the potential to match the durability and the cost of conventional engines. And that really is where we think the core benefit comes from, offering the efficiency of fuel cells with the durability and cost of conventional engines, and with this flexibility, this essential flexibility for the future net zero fuels landscape, but to be able to use the fuels that are available here and now until we get to that place. Now we have a capital light licensing model. And so here you can see how we earn our revenues. We provide our linear power systems intellectual property to the power generator OEMs, to engine makers essentially. And in return, we earn system royalties when those systems, those linear generators enter production. And until then, we earn engineering fees to help those customers incorporate our platform technology into their product development. We also aim to earn license fees from manufacturing partners, so potentially companies who would be making the power electronics, the motion control systems, and the linear electromechanical systems, which form our platform for the benefit of multiple power generator OEMs. And whilst end product OEMs are not directly our customers, of course, engaging with end product OEMs is really important for two reasons. Firstly, in many cases, they also make their own engines today. But even if they don't, they form an important part of the market that generates pull to get power generator OEMs interested in the technology category. Now, we see that revenue mix evolving over time. So today, of course, most of our revenue comes from engineering services. We expect that advanced license fees to start to play a more important role over the next 3 or 4 years. And then as products enter low volume, medium, and then high volume manufacturing, we expect unit royalties to scale up. And that in turn is likely to drive our revenue growth in the kind of second half of this decade. Now, underpinning the business development activities as we look to power generator OEMs, as we look to potential manufacturing partners and end product OEMs with whom we're now engaging, strategic development partners like Mahler Powertrain and like OMI also play an important role by helping us demonstrate the use cases, the benefits of our technology in demonstration systems, and also because they have a market reach, a business development reach through their existing business to get our technology in front of potentially interested OEMs. That really, again, helps to leverage our own capacity to do that. So a couple of recent developments. Back in August, we had a visit from Cummins, you can see on the right-hand side here, as we were just putting together the two-cylinder performance validation prototype. And this is really part of a continuing process of engaging with prospective OEM clients and manufacturing partners on a global basis. That includes certain companies in the UK, but also companies in the US who are interested in using our technology, and in some cases who already are. We also have customers today in Europe, and we're talking, of course, to companies like Ashok Leyland in India. So I mentioned that we have dispatched a couple of performance validation prototype systems. An investment in our core technology is really fundamental. This is what underpins the performance of customer systems that would use our platform technology. So it's essential, and it's actually a hugely positive step during this year. The test results that we've achieved under our own roof are consistent with what we'd expect from our electrical machines, from the mechanical systems that incorporate those into the platform systems that we supply to our customers. And this month, we've dispatched a number of systems to customer and strategic partner sites for integration and performance validation testing, including the one that I've just shown here on the right-hand side, which is now down at Marla Powertrain, and it's having all of its wires and stuff connected up. Now, we also mentioned the novation of our MCSA previously with the General Electric company to Hyliion. And we can't say very much about what Hyliion are doing, but I would encourage you, if you are interested, to go to Hyliion's website, where there's a lot of detail about their vision for future truck powertrains and the role of the Carno generator alongside other range extender technologies in that roadmap. So specifically, the unit that we're supporting the development of is the Carno unit that's shown on the right-hand side here. And this plays a role within a series hybrid electric truck, which, from our perspective, is just a great use case. It brings the benefits of electrification, the electric propulsion to trucks. It brings the benefit of battery electrification where recharging infrastructure is available. But for other times, you've got onboard power generation, so the truck keeps rolling. And for truck operators, that is the lifeblood of the business. Now, we've also signed an MOU with Ashok Leyland, as I mentioned, and we've got a bit of news around this, both in the UK and in India. The intention here is Ashok Leyland will conduct due diligence on our technology, a bit like the system we've provided to Marla Powertrain, to evaluate how that might be used in their various commercial vehicles to identify potentially a first use case, a first vehicle that this might go into. And it's great that Ashok Leyland recognize that a range of technologies are going to be required on the path to electrification and decarbonization in heavy-duty transport in India. And India does have particular challenges and particular opportunities because of the high growth that that country is experiencing, and because of the challenges that the grid has in keeping pace with that. The grid, of course, in India is substantially powered by coal. So using linear generator technology, which can make clean power from renewable fuels, could play an important role in heavy-duty powertrains in India. And so we're really excited about this development. Now, down at the smaller end, the relationship with OMI was formed on the back of their observation that for some of the customers they serve in Southeast Asia, there is, and these companies are typically making small-scale powertrains as well as distributed power systems. There's an appetite for a more effective power generation for hybrid electric systems. So OMI approached us, and they've developed this mock-up of a system generating about 6 kilowatts of electrical power that could be used in small-scale powertrain applications and potentially small applications like distributed telco towers and so on. So we'll be taking this on our travels as we engage with companies in India and elsewhere to show them really what is the art of the possible using our platform technology. And the sharp-eyed of you will notice that the core components we've got here, the extrusions we're using and some of the electrical machine elements here, they are identical to the systems that we're using for the much larger scale. And that really speaks to the breadth of applications that our platform technology can serve. We make once and we apply many. I also mentioned the US subsidiary, Intelligent Inc. And this at the moment is simply a wholly owned subsidiary, but it's been formed in anticipation of further business development, customer delivery, procurement, and technology development activities in the US, continuing on the strong traction that we've got in the US already, and on the relationships that we have with a number of companies who develop technology and who manufacture some of our systems today. I'll just come back to the market overview slide. So this is the same slide we presented at the IPO with a nice quote added to the bottom of it. So firstly, in the market overview here, you'll notice that we talk just about the larger scale applications, and just looking at those applications, the total addressable market could be in the region of $80 to $120 billion, and that considers heavy duty commercial vehicles on highway, off highway, as well as the larger end of the package generators. It does also include some of the sort of smaller scale off-grid applications like telco towers, but it doesn't include the small scale transport applications such as those we're developing with OMI. So we think this is a relatively conservative picture. But even here, we see a really attractive total addressable market with some interesting growth rates because so many of these applications are in high growth markets. And as the quote from Jamie Turner, who we know well, who was previously Bath University, used to work at Cosworth, where I started my career. And Jamie has really is one of the key spokespeople for the benefits of opposed piston engines, which using hydrogen have the potential to offer very high efficiency, potentially matching fuel cells, but also to do that in a way that doesn't produce nitrous oxide emissions. So we think overall this is a strong endorsement for our vision for the use of linear generators, which include opposed piston combustion systems in a range of applications. At this point, I'll just hand over to Gareth to talk to a couple of slides on our financial performance during the half year and compared to the previous year.
Thanks very much, Sam. Good afternoon, everybody. So over the following 2 slides, I'll present our financial performance for the 6 months ended 30 September 2022 as compared to the previous period in 21. Now, during the current financial period, we delivered significantly increased commercial revenues through the first phases of our work with GE and now Hyliion as part of the Master Service Agreement that we signed in August 2021. And this work with Hyliion is now ongoing. It's continuing as we speak, and it will continue into the final quarter of this financial year as well. From a grant income point of view, our grant income in the current and the prior year actually related to 2 separate contracts. So throughout the previous financial period, we were developing our LGN 120, our 120 kilowatt system platform with Marlow Powertrain as part of Innovate UK's SBRI contract. And the total value of that contract that continued across the full prior year was around 2 million. So you can see it's kind of half and half of how that occurred in the last financial year. As we then move separately on to this financial period, we've been working on a separate contract that we were awarded at the start of this financial year. Again, a follow-on to developing our LGN 120 platform, approximately 420,000 of grant income we were awarded at the start of this financial year, and that will continue across the rest of this financial year, whereby we are making some adaptations to our LGN 120 platform for it to be able to use compressed natural gas and hydrogen as part of the same system. That work is ongoing, and as Sam has set out, we're pleased to report that that system has now gone down to Marlow Powertrain and has been installed ready for combustion testing that will start in the first quarter of next year, so the final quarter of our financial year, if you will. And we're extremely excited about that because being able to kind of prove that fuel functionality, that fuel flexibility of compressed natural gas and hydrogen really drives forward that message of how our technology can be brought to market today using fuels that are already on the forecourt. Just back to the financial performance. So from a cost of sales point of view, our cost of sales relate to the hardware and subcontracting costs that we incur as part of the commercial and grant contracts that we're incurring. And then when we look at our admin expenses have increased compared to the prior year. And remember, the prior year was up to the end of September 2021, prior to our IPO in December 2021. So as planned post-IPO, we've increased the investment in our core technology platform and also in our engineering delivery teams. We've also increased our business development footprint and further enhanced the governance in our business with an addition to the board of Peter Wright as one of our non-executive directors. Just mentioning a couple of final bits just there on the P&L. So from a net interest charge, that just related to a convertible loan note that existed in the prior year that was settled as part of the IPO. So there's no continuation of those charges going forward. And from a taxation point of view, whilst we are loss making and we've got tax losses accumulated already, we do receive R&D credits, and I expect those R&D credits to continue and increase as we go forward, as we're increasing the investment into our technology platform. Just moving through to the next slide on the balance sheet. There we go. So from a balance sheet point of view, we're presenting here our balance sheet at the end of September 2022 versus September 21, but also showing the year-end position as well. So when comparing to September 2021, which is the middle blue column, you'll note the impacts of the IPO. So you can see the significant increase in our cash balance compared to September last year, but also the removal of the borrowings balance towards the bottom end of the balance sheet, which was the convertible loan note that we had in the prior year. Since the March 22 position, which is the year-end position shown in the right column, you can see that we've started to utilise the funds that we raised at IPO as part of the investment into our technology platform and into our teams. Final point from me just on the working capital balances. So the movements in our working capital balances and the increases in our working capital balances reflect the ongoing customer operations that we've got in the business. And also on the inventories line, we are taking a specific intention to increase some of our inventories, where in the past we've seen some long lead time items. We've just started to try and stock some of our items, not to a significant level and not to a level that we think creates any risk around obsolescence, but just to a level that allows us to be more agile in terms of our customer deliveries. That's all from me just on the financial performance. I'll pass you back to Sam now in the US, who will take you through the rest of the slides.
Very good. Well, so thanks very much, Gareth. Just before we open up to questions, I just wanted to look ahead on our roadmap and talk about some of the things that we're investing in at the moment as we prepare for advances to second generation and beyond. Now, the first generation, the P1 prototype you can see here, this is the performance validation prototype. The two cylinders on the left are those that we've seen down now at Marla Powertrain. This is a learning system. It's designed to demonstrate and validate the performance of an opposed piston combustion system using our motion control software, power electronics, and linear electromechanical systems, which are included in those cabinets on the right-hand side. And you can see they're bristling with connectors because it's really important that in the lab, everything is instrumented to maximize the learning opportunity. But of course, when we get onto a vehicle, it's important that we have the compactness and the everything is sort of made capable of being mounted on board a vehicle. So the developments that we are undertaking at the moment to make a more power dense system are also being undertaken with support from OMI. And you can see the monoblock internal combustion system on the right hand side there. The construction of the P2 system, which is intended for vehicle demonstration applications, is shown broadly on the left hand side here. And this has a few quite interesting features that make it somewhat smaller, about 10% shorter in length and a reduction in width. But you'll also notice here the size envelope that I've quoted on the top includes power electronics. And that's because, although not shown on this slide, the construction, the architecture here allows power electronics and controls to be slab mounted directly onto the electrical machine. And that'll be essential when we get into later stage vehicle applications with our customers, because it makes everything self-contained. And so this is what that system might look like, obviously without the power electronics and control systems on board. But this was from another event we attended in the US in October. This was the ASME Internal Combustion Engine event in Indianapolis in October. And we took a mock-up of this system, and I'll just show you a sort of walk around of the system so you can see what it looked like on stand. We took this mock-up really just to show the art of the possible and how sort of elegant and compact the linear generator system using this opposed piston combustion architecture could be if it's integrated together using Libertine's proprietary architecture for linear generator technology. Now just, again, looking ahead, the outlook we're really excited about. We remain focused on developing OEM relationships with engine makers who'll be manufacturing and developing the linear generators, but also with manufacturing partners and strategic development partners like Marla Powertrain, and OMI. And we're generating engineering service revenues through those relationships ahead of licensing our technology into high volume manufacture. It's worth reiterating, we've just finished COP27. The global challenges of climate change and energy security are greater than ever. And I deliberately joined those two together. We believe that linear generators have the potential to make grids more resilient as well as decarbonizing them. And partly for that reason, we're seeing so much interest in our technology from around the world. And so the increasing business development activities that we have in the US and also with companies serving high growth markets in India, Middle East, and Africa, I think speak to the opportunity that lies ahead of us. The progress we've made with our core technology this year, validating the performance in the lab ahead of then shipping these systems out to the customers and strategic partners who are evaluating them, positions us now to help those companies bring linear generator technology to market. So I'll close out there, just a few bullet points to summarize then. So we make a proprietary technology platform which provides OEMs with the means to create linear generator products for hard to decarbonize sectors, but sectors typically with very large addressable market. We earn engineering service revenues, and we'll license our technology to customers and manufacturing partners, and we work with strategic development partners to increase our market reach. We continue to deliver. We deliver on our commercial and grant income contracts, and we're investing in the development of our core technology platform. And now that we've completed a number of performance validation prototypes, we believe that we are really positioned for growth in the years ahead. So thanks very much for paying attention, and I'll turn over now to any questions that we've got.
That's great. Thank you to Sam and Gareth for your presentation this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of the screen. But just while Sam and Gareth take a few moments to review those questions submitted already, I'd just like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. Sam, Gareth, if I could ask you just to open up the Q&A tab on the right-hand corner of your screen. I'll just leave your cameras up in full for the moment. If I could ask you, please, just to read out the questions. And firstly, thank you to everybody for your engagement this afternoon. There's a few questions that have come through there for you guys. If I could ask you to read out those questions and, where appropriate, give a response, and then I'll pick up from you at the end.
Sure. Well, thanks, Mark. So I'll just take them from the top then. So first question was, what should investors be looking for in the next 6 to 12 months? I think that my expectation is that there will be plenty more news to come. Now that our technology is in the hands of our customers and strategic partners, we would expect our news flow in the next 6 to 12 months to reflect the progress of those programs, as well as the business development and new activities in connection with some of the relationships we've been talking about today. The second question is on CapEx requirements for the year ahead. I'll just turn that question over to Gareth, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. So our business is a capital light model, so we don't expect to have significant levels of CapEx continuing in the business for long periods of time. But having said that, we do want to invest in some areas of our facilities here, which was part of our IPO plan. So expect CapEx to be in the kind of low single-digit hundreds of thousands per year over the next few years. I would expect as we move forward, all very much in line with what we set out at IPO.
Thank you. I'll join a couple of questions together here. So question, could you give any more detail on the customer regions you're focusing on and why? And then second question, we have just announced the appointment of Mohammed Naji as our full-time business development officer. Has your view of the opportunity landscape changed? Well, firstly, my view of the opportunity landscape fundamentally remains unchanged. Clean power from renewable fuels will be an essential complement to intermittent renewables on the grid and an essential complement to battery electrification in transport. So, I'm firmly of that view, and I think the interest we're getting from companies typically is where companies also believe that to be the case. This portfolio of technologies will be necessary, and linear generators could play a part in that portfolio. Now, the opportunity in India in particular, but also the opportunity in Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and across Southeast Asia. These are really interesting regions because of the combination of high growth and the economic growth could be even faster. It's in some cases constrained by the pace at which energy infrastructure, and in particular renewable energy infrastructure, can be rolled out. So the interest that we're seeing in those regions, and this includes distributed power generation in telco towers, for example. It includes heavy-duty powertrain applications as well as the light-duty powertrain applications. This reflects the convergence of those challenges and opportunities for which we believe linear generators will be a good solution. So yes, I think no substantial change in how we see the opportunity, but it's very much come into focus with a particular regional focus on India, Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and across Southeast Asia. So another question that's been put, do you expect to be awarded any further funding and any idea of the quantum? So I think there's two parts to that question. So looking ahead, our intention is to have a really solid baseline plan, which allows us to grow the business using the funds, the proceeds from our IPO. We have been supported so far by some grant funding, which is useful, but we always look to grant funding opportunities as a means to drive engagement with commercial customers rather than as a means to an end. So in our expectations, I think the role of grant funding is likely to shift as a percentage compared to commercial funding over time. And I think the opportunity to do further fundraisers, I wouldn't rule that out, but that's not something that we've got directly in our plan at the moment. I'll just pick through this. So Mark, just stop me if I'm using up too much time, and I'll just work through these questions as we get to them. So yeah, another question here. You talk of increasing engagement with prospective OEM clients and manufacturing partners in the UK, US, Europe, and India. Which of these geographies do you think are further ahead in thinking around linear generator technology? And secondly, is there a difference in applications across geography? And if so, can you talk to these? So I think the first thing just to acknowledge is that in certain geographies, and in particular in the UK, but also in Europe, policy is not positive towards internal combustion engines. And I think in particular in transport applications, we deliberately don't talk about hybridization of passenger vehicles. I think whether or not you believe that's likely to play a significant role in Europe, for us, that's not where we're seeing the strong commercial pull. I think the other markets where there is fast growth in passenger automotive, in much lighter powertrain applications, as well as truck applications, everything is on the table. And so the difference between regions, in my mind, is really how the combination of the kind of macro market environment supports new and pulls new technologies into applications like heavy duty transport, as well as light transport and distributed power, and why. And the opportunity in India, I think, is a great example. India is looking to, and I think I've heard the form of words, to emerge from the shadow of China this decade. Right? So the technology that we have, the technology that many companies in the UK have, can play a crucial role in India's journey to emerge as a sort of an economic and industrial powerhouse in the course of this decade and the next. So we're really excited about the role that we might play in that journey. And there'll be similar stories like that elsewhere in the world where those same factors apply. Gareth, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
No, I think you've covered. I think you've covered all the key points from there, Sam. That's good.
Very good. Okay, well, just a couple more questions then, whilst we have time. What do you expect of the time frame on developing the downsized power dense linear generator products with OMI, and how much more resource will this demand from Libertine? So it's a great question, because we need to be super focused. We have a capital light model, and we really cannot afford to spread ourselves too thinly, and that's why it's so important that the platform technology we're providing to the concept development OMI are doing is, there is no incremental development from our perspective. It's the same extrusions, the same coils, the same SMC components, the same magnet arrays. We're essentially providing this like a Lego box of components, and OMI are integrating those into a concept which they can then market to potential users of these small scale systems. Now, we're really supportive of that, and the opportunity, I think, with small scale systems is interesting, not only because the volumes are so much higher, but also because the development costs can be so much lower. So each product iteration, each generation of a very large scale system, that's many months of development effort and relatively large costs for each one-off system. For the small scale stuff, it's not trivial development cost, and it's not trivial to make each prototype, but it's substantially less expensive. And even just down to the practicalities of when we take that mock-up over to India to show that off to some of the companies that we'll be talking to with OMI over there, it goes in a suitcase. You don't have to get a shipping container and box it up. So there's all sorts of economies when you're making small stuff. The other thing which is interesting is at the small scale, that product is much more differentiated. If you look around, there are really no efficient, fuel flexible, small scale generator products. You're stuck with low cost, typically not very durable, and usually catastrophically inefficient gensets that are the only tools that can be used by companies who are trying to power their telco towers alongside battery and solar. And of course, if you have solar and if you have a battery to use some of the solar, that's generally going to be the most cost-effective way. But you have to have something in addition to that, because telco tower signals, they have to be there 24/7. You can't sort of turn the tower off and say, well, sorry, the battery's down, we'll come back soon. So the linear generator could play an important role in an application like that, where you maybe only need 5 or 10 kilowatts, and where existing technologies just don't do the job. But also because those applications and the companies serving those applications are utterly technology agnostic, and they don't care how the levelized cost of energy is brought down. They just care that when you tot up the capital cost and the fuel cost, and you look at the life of the system and how much it costs to operate and maintain, all of those costs divided by all the kilowatt hours that are produced, that's the number they're trying to minimize. And a linear generator, even in the early stages of development, can play a role in bringing down levelized cost of energy in applications like that. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the likely time frame for developing and bringing a product like that to market, and that will be something that we obviously would like OMI to be able to do, but it is, as I say, likely to be a faster exercise than developing the larger scale stuff, just because of the practicalities of what it takes. So yeah, I think watch this space. I think we just have a couple of three more questions now. So how do you rate your first year as a listed company? It's difficult to say, really, because Gareth has more experience of listed companies than me. This is my first foray into being a CEO of a PLC. It has been a transformative process for Libertine, looking back over Libertine's 13 years of history, compared to the amount of time and effort that it took for me as a CEO to go and find investment from angel investors and angel investor networks. It was fun, but it was all consuming, and I should be spending more of my time engaging with customers and helping to deliver the technology we have in the hands of our customers and helping to build and grow the business. And thankfully now, thanks to the capability we have in our board team, thanks to Gareth, who brings a lot of those new capabilities, for me, investor engagement now is a really important part of the job, but it sits alongside the actual CEO role, which is building the business and creating value and just delivering on the impact that our technology is going to have. And for me, it's a really exciting place to be. It's a stronger position now than I think we've ever been in.
I think as well, Sam, the technical progress that we've made this year and being able to convert our CAD drawings and our CAD images into physical hardware that is now down in test cells feels great and gives us excitement as we get into next year to see performance data from those systems and see how those operate.
Agreed. Okay, so I'll just join together the final couple of questions here then. So geographically, where do you think you'll get the most commercial traction? And then secondly, can you say a little bit about how you're building your foothold in the US? And so I've talked quite a lot about India and Asia, so I will just talk to the US for a moment, because that's where I'm sat. I would bring the screen back up from my hotel room, but then I'd be all dark. So the US is a really interesting opportunity for us. It's a huge market. There is a huge amount of R&D spend, and I think in the press in the last few weeks we've seen kind of a bit of hand-wringing about just how much investment in innovation is taking place in the US compared to in Europe, and now we're the beneficiary of that. The Inflation Reduction Act is kind of helping industrial companies in the US invest in new technologies, and that includes technologies making power from hydrogen, for example, and hydrogen supply chain opportunities. Right? So we have in the past put our technology into a hydrogen compressor, a development we did with Southwest Research, and that's you can read about that on their website. We're looking ahead. There could be opportunities for hydrogen type projects in the US. The Carno system will be able to run on hydrogen in due course. And I think that, from our perspective, investment in a wide range of technologies and a wide range of fuels is fine because of the nature of our technology platform. So, will green hydrogen play a major role in trucking alongside battery electrification? Well, possibly, but actually from our perspective, we don't know. And we are fuel flexible, we're fuel agnostic. So our platform technology, our proposition works whichever way that falls. There's a lot of investment in the US going into, for example, ethanol in trucks, and there are some great companies out there doing exactly that. There's a lot of investments going into biogas. There are some who are looking at methanol, and certainly across India and Southeast Asia, methanol might well be a fuel. There are even those brave souls who think that ammonia might be a fuel option, perhaps in shipping or elsewhere. So, there's lots and lots of different options there. And you don't have to be partisan about this. You don't have to have a favorite. From our perspective, we recognize that the fuels landscape is going to be more complex. It's going to play a complementary role to renewable power from solar and from wind, wherever that can go into wires and into batteries, that should happen. But the complementary nature of clean power from renewable fuels, and any renewable fuels, that is what drives our business. And we're seeing huge interest in that proposition, specifically in the US, where there's obviously a lot of investment going in to realize the products and the application solutions that can bring.
That's great, Gareth. Sam, I think you've taken all the questions from investors this afternoon. So thank you once again to everybody for their engagement this afternoon. Sam, I know investor feedback is important to you and also to you, Gareth, and I'll shortly redirect those on the call to provide you with their feedback. But I wondered if I may, Sam, just ask you for a few closing comments just to wrap up with, and then I'll send investors for their thoughts and their expectations.
Certainly, Mark. So thanks very much. Thanks for all the questions. It's great to see so much engagement. Thanks to everyone that's joined the call. We are a public listed company now, and I'm really keen to tell the story as it's rapidly evolving and as we're making the rapid progress that being a public company has allowed us to do, thanks to the proceeds of the IPO last year. Hopefully you'll agree that the progress we've made is in line with the expectations that we set, and we'll continue to look to meet or beat those. And I'm really excited about the position that we're now in, because as I say, the world is in dire need of the technology solutions that we believe linear generators can form a part of. So yeah, I think we're well placed. We're looking ahead to 2023 as a very exciting year when more of our technology will be in more hands. And yeah, watch this space, because we think the impact of our technology is going to be vast, and it's going to solve some of the world's most pressing problems.
That's great. Sam, Gareth, thank you once again for your time this afternoon and for updating investors. Could I please ask investors on the call not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Libertine Holdings PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. Good afternoon to you all.